Those who had committed suicide were denied access to a Catholic burial, and remains unidentified were recovered from the Danube River. That is the person who is buried at this cemetery that is difficult to locate. After being established for the first time in 1840, the cemetery underwent expansion in the year 1900. This expansion came about as a result of continuous floods and the building of a dike. During the year 1935, a modest, modernist graveyard chapel was constructed on top of a hill that separated the two halves of the cemetery. The chapel was designed by architect Karl Franz Eder and was surrounded by rose bushes. The older component is now lying abandoned behind the embankment, and it is covered by shrubs and trees. On the other hand, the new piece is encircled by a short wall, and the family of Joseph Fuchs has been taking care of it since 1933. A total of 478 unidentified individuals were laid to rest in the cemetery up to the year 1900. A significant number of these individuals had either drowned in the Danube or committed suicide, which prevented them from receiving a Christian burial at the Central Cemetery, Zentralfriedhof, by the Catholic Church. The new section of the cemetery serves as the last resting place for an additional 104 deceased individuals, 61 of whom have not been recognized. The majority of these individuals were carried ashore by the river's current in the vicinity of the site where the canal and river meet. The last corpse that was buried here in 1940 was a nameless body. Since 1938, when the town of Albern was integrated into Vienna, the Central Cemetery has been the last resting place for all deceased individuals who have not been identified. Additionally, as a result of the building and extension of the Alberner Hafen, an industrial port, in 1939, the currents in the Danube have altered. The waters of the Danube no longer swirl trash of any type on shore, and its victims no longer give up so readily. The majority of the tombs are embellished with cast iron crosses that are black in color, and each one has a crucifix that is silver in color. A minor ritual is held on All Saints' Day every year by local fishermen to commemorate the unknown dead. The event consists of floating a raft on the Danube and remembering the deceased by writing a memorial inscription in German, Hungarian, and Slovak. This is done in memory of the deceased. It is rather difficult to locate the cemetery, which is situated in Simmering at the Alberner Hafen, at the intersection of the Danube and the Donaukanal, Danube Canal. It is an unexpected jewel that is concealed behind an industrial estate, and two grain elevators that are staggeringly large. Though it was constructed in the 1500s, it is possible that St. Sebastian's Cemetery has been used as a burial ground for a considerably longer period of time. There is a connection between it and the neighboring St. Sebastian's Church, which is a well-known and significant monument located inside Salzburg's Old Town. The first corpse to be laid to rest at the St. Sebastian's Cemetery was actually that of the individual who constructed the cemetery. The visitors to the cemetery, on the other hand, do not find this particular burial to be very enticing. The St. Sebastian's Cemetery is home to a number of graves that are considered to be significant historical personalities on many occasions. Mozart's own family, including Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim, a famous physician who is best known as Paracelsus, and Prince Archbishop Wolf Dietrich von Reitenau, who is actually resting within the glorious centerpiece of the cemetery, are among the many families that are considered to be among the most important families from the Salzburg region. In spite of the fact that the St. Sebastian's Cemetery is home to a lot of noteworthy burials, there are a great deal of other aspects that attract people to the location where the deceased are laid to rest. One of them is the spectacular Gothic architecture and artwork that can be seen in many of the burial niches located throughout the cemetery. Throughout the whole of the cemetery, there are several examples of ominous symbolism, including skulls and death. An emaciated man figure clutching an hourglass, which is thought to depict death itself, is one of the pieces that stands out as very interesting. Another prominent item is a skull that has a serpent woven through its eye hole. First narrative that establishes a connection between Blood Street and death and the supernatural. A group of Knights Templars serves as the focal point. This particular group was reportedly looking for a place to take sanctuary along the roadway. The vaults of number 3 Blutgasse are home to a secret that is concealed behind their dark depths. They were slain in a brutal manner after being tracked down to this place, where they were discovered in the basement, taken to the street above, and then brutally slaughtered. Blood was spilled on the street, and the street's name was changed against its will. Legend has it that the Knights Templar were in the process of concealing riches in the basement, but to this day, it has not been found. This is despite the fact that the treasure has been discovered. There are, however, the most widespread traditions that have been passed down about them, and one of them is that their spirits are still there, eternally confined to haunt Blood Street. In the past, this place was used as a passageway for those who were on death row, which contributes to the creepiness of the location as well as its infamy. The former location of the execution site in Vienna is said to have been located at one end of Blutgasse. Consequently, a great number of inmates made their last steps down the roadway that was paved with cobblestones. There are many who believe that these convicts, who have since been executed, continue to retrace their steps along Blood Street, becoming trapped in a cycle and subsequently haunting the neighborhood. Visitors to Vienna, Austria, will find that Blutgasse is situated in an ideal position. It is located in the primary tourist area, which is flanked by a considerable number of more well-known sites and upscale shops. It is possible to access the roadway at any hour of the day or night since it is located in a public area. Just remember to be aware of the locals if you happen to be there during the dead of night. Ungarisches Haus in Vienna, which literally translates as Hungarian house, is a typical example of a city domicile that does not make much of an effort to attract others' notice. The structure, on the other hand, has come to be associated with a reputation that is extremely unpleasant and unfavorable. It is reported that Elizabeth Bathory, the notorious Blood Countess, previously resided at this establishment at one point in time. There are a lot of legends that the property may be haunted, since, as you can guess, there are horrible crimes that are supposed to have taken place inside the belly of the structure. As a consequence, the property is said to be haunted. There was a Hungarian noblewoman named Elizabeth Bathory who lived in the 1500s. She became most famous for her role as the Blood Countess and, on occasion, as Countess Dracula. This macabre appellation was bestowed upon her by the alleged commission of a string of heinous atrocities that, to this day, continue to be unparalleled in terms of their level of depravity. She was even given the title of being the most prolific female serial murderer in the annals of recorded history by the Guinness Book of Records. Elizabeth was placed on trial for a variety of crimes, including the murder and torture of hundreds of young ladies from the town that was located in the vicinity of her home. It is reported that she would entice these young women to her castle by promising them a well-paid employment, for which she would then torture them to death in the most heinous of ways. There are rumors that she bathed in blood and even ingested it in order to keep her own young look. Her motivations have been characterized as an insatiable need for blood, which she is said to have swallowed. Despite the fact that these unfathomable acts continue to pique the imagination of a significant number of people, their very existence has been called into doubt. Due to the fact that Elizabeth Bathory was a shrewd, wealthy, and immensely influential lady at an era in which such a thing was unheard of, it is sometimes hypothesized that she may have been framed for these heinous acts. In addition, there were a great number of individuals who, in the event that she passed away, would be in a position to acquire a great deal of authority and fortune. The castle that Elizabeth Bathory owned known as Cactus Castle, is often considered as being haunted and as the primary location where she committed her heinous crimes. On the other hand, another location that is less questionable has been tied to her alleged criminal activities and has a past that is just as dreadful. One of the places that Elizabeth formerly called home is the Ungarisches House, which can be found inside the city of Vienna. It is said that here is the place where she started her homicidal spree of terror, which occurred a long time before she resided her famous Castle of Horrors. It is said that Elizabeth engaged a number of accomplices, and that their task was to entice attractive young ladies from the markets in the surrounding area to come to the Ungarisches House. As soon as these young ladies arrived at the residence, where they had anticipated finding a new employment, they were confronted with nothing but murder and suffering. Despite the fact that Elizabeth's actions are often contested, there are persistent allegations that she got a taste for blood in Vienna, specifically inside this building that is now notorious. There have been assertions made by certain individuals that the history of this structure may have left behind traces of agony, torture, and death, to the extent that it is said to be haunted. There is a strong possibility that the souls of Elizabeth's victims may be found inside this structure, assuming that the murders of those individuals did in fact take place.